Welcome to this installment of my model cars, and this is my 1932 Ford 5-window coupe. It is the first model car I built, and I'm gonna show you some details on it now. The car is done in blue, and that's because the only color I had when I built this car was blue. And it's not the most detailed car. It's got the removable top for the hood, and I could have made this opening right here. If you cut this in half and put three separate pieces of tube here, you can have a rod go through it and you can open and close it, but I had no idea how to do that when I built this. It's got a modified 426 Hemi swapped in, and it's got a light tan interior. It has no license plate, although it has the mount, and the windows are extremely foggy. There are a few areas where I didn't put the paint on very well. Back here, behind the bumper, is one. There are other issues. The inner fender's up here, although you don't notice those when it's sitting because you see it from above. Inside, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out, actually. It's got a tiny amount of detail. It's all very basic, though. You see the dashboard in there. It's got a blue bit of detailing, blue dashboard, blue indicator switch, Black steering wheel, doesn't really fit, but whatever. And you can see down there, the kit only came with 2 pedals. But you see the massive stick shift in there. I used a screw to make the 3rd pedal. Once again, like most of my early models, this one doesn't have radiator hoses because I was too impatient to put them in. Underneath, let's look at the wheels first actually. It's the same set of wheels I use on most of my cars. There's nothing on the top that's interesting at all. The front's pretty good, though. I like how the front turned out on this thing. I mounted the headlights custom, and they're not really facing forward, but that wasn't really too big of a concern. Now, underneath, you'll notice some interesting features of the car. For one, when I was building this, I put the body on. I put everything on the frame that needed to go on. And then I dropped the body over. But the headers come out up here, because that's where they just sat when I dropped everything on. But it has the stock tailpipes. And I don't know why I did that. That's just kind of how it turned out. You'll also notice that the bottom side of the interior bucket is not painted. And you can see that under here, just above the transmission, all back there and above the drive shaft. A little interesting fact about the car. When I was building it, since it was my first car and I had no idea what I was doing, everything through here, steering rack and column, I entirely abandoned the car for 4 months and went on to other projects because I could not figure out how it went together all in here. And then one day I just came down, looked at it, put it in place, and wondered why I couldn't figure that out. But it turned out relatively nice once I did. The inner wheels also are not painted, but that's not too big of an issue. I have the running boards painted right down here. I have another one of these, because since this was my first model car and I started building it at the start of a new year, I kind of started this tradition where I build a 32 Ford 5-window coupe at the start of every year. This was the first installment, and I built a second one, very different from this one. And since I'm doing the cars in order, that will be, I believe, the 8th 1/25th scale car. And then in a few months, we'll have a third of these added to the collection. Could be interesting. Some extra detailing that I could have done. I could have wired the engine bay, but I didn't because it's too much effort for someone who had just started their first car. I should have painted the air filters. I did do that on the second one. The body's a bit loose, and so are the fenders. And on right here by the firewall, you can see where I put way too much glue, and when it kind of took the paint off, it pushed it out through the firewall, and it came out way farther and ran back here a bit, but I neatened that up with some fresh blue paint a while ago. The windows are very cloudy, as you see, but it's got the rear view mirror up there. The seats and the door panels are all tan, but everything else is blue inside. No mirrors, because I didn't put any on it when I built it. There's not too much about the car other than that, though. It's relatively bland, I guess. It's a very nice car. I like this car. This is one of my favorite body styles of car ever produced. It's right up there with the second generation Corvette and the early Mustangs and Camaros. It's up there with all those, which are some of my favorite cars. It's right up there with the 57 Chevy on my list, which is, it's kind of saying something, because I really do like the 57 Chevy. The rear bumper on this one doesn't sit quite level, but it's not noticeable at a passing glance unless you really take the time to look at it. And that's that. I'm going to thank the one person who's probably going to watch this, and I'll see you in the next episode of my model cars.